Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. Manuel Ugarte's first interview as a Manchester United player, and wow, have we been waiting for this for a long time. After the negativity of the weekend, we've got some positive news, and it is our new signing speaking as a Manchester United player, talking all things the history of Manchester United, his idol as a player growing up, what his ambitions are at Manchester United, who in the squad he spoke to before making the move to Manchester United, what attracted him to Manchester United, and ultimately speaking very, very, very positively about the club. And also, it's got me really excited to have him play in a Manchester United shirt. He seems to get what the club is about. He's got that South American grit. He understands the hunger of the fans to win trophies. He wants to win trophies himself. And let's just say he better be good. He better be good, because we are absolutely needing him to step up and step into this midfield and basically be our midfield saviour. I mean, it's not going to take much to improve on what we currently have, let's be honest, but he seems like he's got all the attributes to be a top player for Manchester United, and I'm super excited to see him play. But first and foremost, let's get through the quotes of his first interview. I'm hoping, unlike what Ten Hag said, it's not going to be long before he does play for Manchester United. He's training with the Uruguayan national team already, and, you know, Ten Hag said he's not Harry Potter, it might take a while. Manuel Ugarte seems like the type of player that keeps himself in top shape, and he's really hungry to get that Manchester United shirt on and start playing for the club, and we need him now more than ever. Get all your comments in. Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to see you with a bit of positive news. It makes a change, doesn't it, over the last few days? But let's get started on what Manuel Ugarte had to say. By the way, everyone, I was watching this interview and I was making bullet points left, right and centre, so if it's not completely concise, do forgive me, but I think I got basically everything that we need to know from this interview. So first thing about Manuel Ugarte waiting for Manchester United for 2 months, he said, "This club and this stadium, it is legendary. We all know what a massive club Manchester United is, one of the best teams in the world. It's a dream come true to play for Manchester United. I'm really happy because it's been a very long process." So Ugarte speaking about how long it was, the wait that he had to do to get into Manchester United, a long summer waiting for that Manchester United deal to be confirmed, but he's super happy to be here at one of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the best teams in the world, and he's talking about how legendary Manchester United is, so he understands the history behind that. I mean, most players say that when they come through the door. He seems like he respects the badge. Unlike some players we've had in recent times, not naming any names, but he seems like he respects the badge. He understands how big it is to play for this club, which is obviously super important. And he then gets asked, it's when you got the opportunity to become a Manchester United player, what drew you to this opportunity? What drew you to this club? What drew you to this project? And he said, first of all, it's history. We all know that Manchester United is a massive club, one of the best teams in the world. I also spoke a lot to Facundo Pellistri, and he told me about the atmosphere that builds up at Old Trafford on match days, and it is incredible. He also got asked what excites him about joining Manchester United, and he said, the legends that have played here, the history of the game. I'd love to experience Manchester United's legendary stadium as a player and feel the presence of its supporters. So what I got through this interview is he was consistently saying how much he loves the passion of the fans, you know, the passion that is behind English football, the stadium, the history of the club. We've seen at the weekend he put that picture on saying how much of an honour it was to meet Paul Scholes, who is obviously a legend of Manchester United, a legendary Manchester United midfielder, which, again, is what you want from a player. What I really liked about Manuel Ugarte when he was joining Manchester United, through his tweets, through, you know, just the news that you heard coming out from the journalist Fabrizio Romano, and things that you could see, is how desperate he was to join Manchester United, but also how buzzing he was when he first arrived. You know, when he was putting the emojis on his Twitter, and people say, oh, it's only social media. I just love it when players push so hard to join this club, and people will say, oh, that's expected, you know, it's Manchester United, you know, players should dream of joining this club. But the fact of the matter is Manchester United finished 8th last season. They're not as an attractive prospect as they used to be. What young players have come here and succeeded in recent years, it is a risk for a player to come and join Manchester United, and people will talk about the money that you can get joining here, and, you know, the fan base, and, you know, if you take that risk and we do get back to where we was, you become the players that have helped Manchester United get back to greatness, and Dallo spoke about this before as well. But as a young player, and Manuel Ugarte did have options, by the way, he did have options. To be that desperate to join Manchester United, I really, really liked the fact he was pushing so hard at PSG, and he speaks about how much of a long process and how kind of desperate he was to get here. I love that, and knowing the history behind the club, that's what you want from players, because you want players that understand what it means to put on the shirt. And when they go out on the pitch, they give absolutely everything. I think we've lacked that, to be honest, from certain players. Manuel Ugarte will definitely bring that, which is super exciting. De Ligt was the same. De Ligt took a pay cut to join Manchester United. It was only Manchester United. He was waiting. He was patient. That's what you like. You want players that are so excited to join the project, so excited to join Manchester United and understand what it means to wear that shirt. Ronnie Dodge says, at least the number 25 will play for the badge. Sorry, at least this number 25 will play for the badge. I mean, I spoke about that the other day when I seen that Ugarte had got the number 25 for Manchester United. Again, like, I just want to leave the Jadon Sancho saga behind, to be honest with you. I don't wish him any ill will. I know some people will be, watching his career and probably, be quite bitter about how it ended. For me personally, I don't want to send any bitterness Jadon Sancho's way. Be better, don't be bitter. That is the quote that I would say. I'm focused on the new number 25 now, which is Manuel Ugarte. But I do agree with that comment. This player, I know for a fact, will give more than what the last number 25 did. And, giving everything for the badge and for the shirt is the absolute bare minimum. It's the absolute bare minimum. Although Ugarte does say later on in his interview that he enjoys playing a bit of PlayStation. Like, I started getting PTSD. I was like, no, not the PlayStation again. It's got to be a rule that when you join Manchester United, no PlayStation's allowed. I mean, I'm joking. Obviously, players can have free time as long as it doesn't, it doesn't mean that you're playing PlayStation over playing Manchester United, which we've had in the past. But Manuel Ugarte doesn't come off as that sort of character. He speaks about how, he'll do anything when he's on the pitch to win and how he views a game of football and how important it is in the culture, the Uruguayan, sayings that they have and why Uruguayan national team, despite it being a small country, is such a good team because of their grit, their determination and how they view football as, basically, you'll do anything on the pitch to win. So yeah, everyone get your comments in as well about this Ugarte interview. So speaks about his signing is. It's mad to me that Ugarte, by the way, because you forget, Ugarte is only 23 and how old's Pellistri? About 21, 22? So similar age to Pellistri. So they played together at the Uruguayan national team. Obviously Pellistri is a starter for the Uruguayan national team and Pellistri, must have spoke positively to Manuel Ugarte about Manchester United, which is quite nice to hear. And that's one thing you always got from Pellistri as well when he was on the pitch. He gave everything. Even when he had to play right back in the Community Shield, he gave everything. And that's what you get from footballers that have come through the background of this South American football. Usually they will give everything for the badge. So nice to see that Pellistri is given some positive words about Manchester United to our next Uruguayan, Manuel Ugarte. He then gets asked about what he knows about his teammates. Obviously, he's only 23 and he's joining a young, exciting squad. This is the project under Ineos, young squad that has got potential. They're not instantly expecting success and to be winning Premier Leagues, and that's not going to happen this year. We all know that. But we've invested in young, talented players for the future that probably do need some coaching, do need some refinement. But it's really positive for the future of Manchester United, building a young squad that has levels to go up and that are going to be at the club for hopefully quite a long time and can grow together and win together. And he speaks about joining, the young squad and who he spoke to from the team. And he says, I've watched a few games of Manchester United since I knew that I was joining here, and I've spoken to Bruno Fernandes and Leitcher, chatted a lot with them, and I'm eager and excited for this great responsibility, and I am prepared for that. So again, Bruno Fernandes, the captain, reaching out to Manuel Ugarte. You love to see it. And also Leitcher Martinez reaching out to Manuel Ugarte and speaking to him. We know that Lisandro Martinez is a massive leader in that dressing room. I know a lot of people were frustrated with the picture with McAllister this morning, straight away on international duty in the Argentine team. Lisandro Martinez posting, the picture with McAllister who plays for Liverpool after that thrashing at the weekend. I'm going to be honest, I thought it was in really poor taste and I just thought it's like, read the room. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't mean I'm saying, Lisandro Martinez, I'm frustrated with him because out of everyone in this club, we know he gives absolutely everything when he's on the pitch and he will literally die for that badge. We've seen it. it's just about, reading the room in these situations. And, if it was Rashford posing with Trent Alexander-Arnold on international duty, people would have a lot to say about it. You've got to kind of hold players to the same standards. The thing is with Leacher, he gives absolutely everything on the pitch, and I know he does. I think he's just not read the room in this situation. But we know he's such a leader in that dressing room. We know he's took Alejandro Garnacho under his wing. Garnacho often calls him like big brother when you see them speaking to each other, and, says that he looks up to him. And he seems like a big leader in that dressing room. So the fact that he's reaching out to a new signing, another South American player, shows kind of his stature in that dressing room. And obviously the captain, Bruno Fernandes. I've said it so many times. I know multiple people have different opinions on Bruno, but from what we hear in and around the club, he is an absolutely quality leader, super respected, and he's brilliant with everyone in the club, from the young players, to the senior team, to the staff. We all know about that story of him offering to pay out of his own pocket to take staff down to Wembley when there was budget cuts. So it's nice to see that them two big parts of the leadership team at Manchester United are reaching out to a new player, a new young player that is joining. He also did do his interview in his native language, so I don't know if he can speak English yet. I'm assuming he can't. Well, he can't speak English yet if he's doing it in his native language. But I'm sure that that is something he's going to learn and will start to develop. Casemiro couldn't speak English when he first came into the club. He's now a lot better at it. The same with Sandro Martinez. I think it was quite broken. Now you see him doing interviews on Sky Sports and speaking brilliantly well. He will learn that. He's only 23. I mean, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it's nice to kind of learn that language when you come into the club so you can communicate with the fans in our home country. I mean, you've seen Bellingham trying to learn Spanish too, so that's usually what young players do coming into a new league, new country and a new club. And, about him speaking to Leacher, I like the idea of like Manuel Ugarte and Leacher talking, because I expect them to play in quite a similar style. We know how aggressive Leacher is, and I expect Ugarte to be the same, and we need that passion within the team, and we need to add somebody into that. Last season, when Leacher was injured for quite a lot of the season, I feel like we missed that spark, we missed that, grit in the team, and Ugarte will definitely add that in too. We've got some comments coming in here, and could it be the mighty Spurs versus Man U in the Europa League final? Man U, I like what you've done there with Manuel Ugarte. I mean, it definitely could be if we don't meet before then. I mean, who would win right now, Spurs or United? People talk about us winning the Europa League. We need to improve big time if we still has that as our hope this season, which it definitely should be. Matt Clash says Anthony still can't speak English. Anthony is a lot better at English than he is when he first got here. He's not 100% yet, but he's definitely learning as well. And so Ugarte and the Butcher of Amsterdam have played together. I don't think they've played together, but I don't think they've played together from what they've not played together, because from what I know, but they've played against each other, obviously, for Argentina and then for Uruguay. He then gets asked, how he would describe himself as a footballer, his style. And the interviewer on MUTV mentioned that we've seen that quote that Ugarte came out with, that football is a game when we have the ball, but a fight when we don't. And Ugarte replies, this is a genuine comment that I made because I was describing my style of play, and that came out naturally. That sums me up as a player. I'm very comfortable winning the ball back, and I'm looking forward to doing it here at Manchester United. They then ask, you got the most tackles for PSG in League One last season. Is that a strength of yours? And he says, something I do as a rule. It's part and parcel of my game. I do it naturally. I hope it works at Old Trafford and in the Premier League. I'm pretty much an all-round player, as I like to pass the ball too, which is obviously key because we need people that can pass the ball. He said, I feel like I'm decent at winning the ball back, but I'm also very good in possession as well. There are things I can improve, but what a better place to do that than here at Manchester United. So talking there, he's saying shut down Twitter tacticos that say I can't pass the ball. It's coming from the horse's mouth. Manuel Ugarte feels like he's very good in possession. So a lot of people that were worried about, whether Manuel Ugarte will be good enough in possession for Manchester United, because I've heard this narrative a lot. He's not someone who's going to make line-breaking passes through the midfield. He's not Kevin De Bruyne, but he's decent in possession. He often makes a simple pass and gives it off simple to maybe the players that can do that, such as a Manu and such as a Bruno. But Manuel Ugarte, his actual pass completion rate is very, very high. He doesn't lose the ball that often. He's actually better when he's under pressure, which Manchester United are a lot in making them quick decisions. And let's be real, everyone. It's going to be better than what we currently have. It's going to be better than what we had against Liverpool. So Manuel Ugarte, they're shutting down the people that were saying, you know, I'm not sure about him in possession. He said he loves tackling and that's part of his game, but he also thinks he's good in possession as well. And he's an all-round footballer, whilst acknowledging that there could be improvements. He's only 23, but he's keen to learn and keen to do that at Manchester United. I really like that attitude from him, and I like the fact he basically said, I'm more than just someone who's going to win a tackle. I have other parts of my game as well, and I want to improve them, and I basically want to be an all-rounder of a midfielder. Really interesting in a second, by the way, when he mentions one of his idols in his position, and a lot of people say, you know, Ugarte can't be a lone six, and I think at the moment it would be best to put him in a double pivot, but he mentions, you know, a typical six is his idol, and we'll get onto that in a second. And talking about, you know, the butcher of Argentina and now the butcher of Uruguay, hopefully I don't butcher this Uruguayan phrase because I've just wrote it down. And the interviewer says there was a phrase, Garachurua in Uruguay. There was a phrase, Garachurua, which is a common Uruguayan phrase in football. How do you describe that to an English person? And Manuel Ugarte says, fighting for every ball like it's your last, something natural to Uruguayan players. Uruguay is a small country, but it produces good players due to this saying. It basically means a fighting spirit, give everything you've got, no matter what the circumstances. So again, maybe I've said that name wrong, but let me know in the comments if I did. Garachurua, something like that. I only listened to the interview once. It's a phrase in Uruguayan football, and Manuel Ugarte there basically making it clear that that phrase is why the Uruguayan national team does so well, considering it's such a small country, because they have players that will fight for everything, no matter what, and you will give everything like it's your last. It's a complete fighting spirit, and that's obviously how he kind of structures his game, and that's a saying that he employs into his game no matter where he plays as well. And you look at that, and you do look at the characters of the Uruguayan national team, and they are all very strong, passionate characters, and it's good to have one of them as part of Manchester United as well, which again, something we've been lacking. We had it injected with Lisandro Martinez. Dallo gives it, you know, Bruno gives it, but we want that passion. We want that passion in the team, and we want players to fight for literally everything, and Manuel Ugarte seems like he will. A lot of people talking about the passion, and Red Olsen said he found it difficult to describe. Beth found it impossible to pronounce. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. A lot of people talking about Manuel Ugarte needing to start for Manchester United when he comes in. He absolutely does, in my opinion. I mean, in the Southampton game, I would be absolutely shocked if he doesn't at least get some minutes off the bench. I know Ten Hag spoke about being, you know, not Harry Potter and it could take weeks and months, but I think he was exaggerating personally. And I think that he was just trying to limit supporters' expectations. But I don't see why Manuel Ugarte shouldn't at least be getting some minutes in the Southampton game. You know, we've got 2 weeks of an international break. He looks like he's in really good condition. We're desperate for a midfielder. I don't see why he shouldn't be. But we've still got a bit of the interview to go before we speak more about Manuel Ugarte and where he comes into Manchester United and what midfield Erik ten Hag will play with Ugarte. Does this give Casemiro a helping hand? You know, who comes out of the team, etc., etc. He gets asked what he likes to do in his free time, and he says he likes to chill, stay at home and play PlayStation. Make sure we set a time limit on how much time's been played on PlayStation. I mean, I'm joking, but, you know, we've had issues with PlayStations before, but I'm sure with Manuel Ugarte it won't be a problem. And, you know, there's other players who like to, you know, play PlayStation. It's part and parcel of, you know, people living life outside of football. So I have no issues with it, as long as it doesn't come into it affecting Manchester United, which I doubt it will, because I guarantee you 99% of our team play PlayStation, but only on certain occasions it's actually affected us. For example, the last number 25 that wore the shirt. He also says he drinks a lot of mate. That is very important. So I looked up what this drink was. doing my research, guys, this is the insight you don't get from anywhere else. And he said, and it says that mate is a caffeine-rich drink made from the dried leaves of a tree, a South American holy tree. Some research suggests it may enhance physical performance, boost energy levels, and support weight management. So our new Uruguayan midfielder is drinking a lot of mate, which apparently is supposed to enhance you physically and enhance better performance. So I love it when footballers do everything they can off the pitch as well to enhance the performance and care about their own performance levels, look after themselves properly, you know, keep the right diet. And I actually heard, you know, last week I was speaking to someone and they were saying, you know, they were actually like shocked at how good of shape Manuel Ugarte was in when he got to Manchester United, considering, you know, he's not been playing for PSG, he's in really good shape, and that obviously speaks of the character that he is, the way he looks after himself off the pitch as well, which is something that we need. Someone said it's Mate, not mate. When I watched the interview, he said mate in the interview, so that's how I'm pronouncing it. And then he gets asked about who his heroes are, and he said the Argentinian Riquelme. I watched certain aspects of a lot of players, but in my personal position, Busquets. I mean, Busquets is probably the best number 6 that's been. One of them, if not the best. Like, Busquets is absolutely an incredible footballer. So to have him as his idol makes sense. And obviously he's a footballer that's excellent in possession as well, as good at winning the ball back, an excellent reader of the game. So Manuel Ugarte, despite him, you would say, being more aggressive and more, you know, energetic than the likes of a Busquets, he looks up to him, and hopefully it can help him in certain other aspects of his game that Manchester United need as well, in terms of passing, you know, reading the game, anticipation. Sergio Busquets is one of the best we've ever seen. So to have him as his idol, you know, a lot of people saying Ugarte isn't a number 6, out and out number 6. Well, Sergio Busquets is his idol in his position, he says. So that's interesting as well to hear that he names Busquets as his idol, because a lot of people say, oh, I don't know if he's a sole 6. Well, he said in his position, and that is his position. For me, I do think Ugarte will probably be better in a double pivot, especially in the Premier League. But let's see what happens when he does play for Manchester United and how Eric Ten Hag utilises him. Alex G says Rodri is better than Busquets was, to be honest. That is a bold statement. I think Busquets, personally, for me, is the best centre defensive midfielder that I've seen, personally. And Rodri is obviously absolutely excellent, but I think Busquets, you know, the way he did it over the course of his career, I mean, Rodri's won everything as well and done brilliantly, but I think Busquets, for me, just for what I've seen. I mean, even in the later stages of his career for Barcelona, he was still absolutely top drawer. But let's see how Rodri goes over the course of his career. Glenn Bulb says he's got all the cliched answers, must be a good player. I mean, what do you expect him to say? He's not going to come here and say, oh, yeah, buzzing, don't know much about the club. Like, what he's saying is exactly what you want to hear as a Manchester United fan. Looks after himself off the pitch, knows how legendary the club is, will fight for everything, will do everything to win. Like, that's what you want. So I'm happy with these answers. And I thought, if you actually watched the interview, I thought he came across really, really well. He then gets asked about the fact that Forlan and Cavani have played here. You're the 5th Uruguayan player to play for United. He said it feels great. Forlan and Cavani, both great players. I've been lucky enough to play with Edison Cavani at a club with so much history, and now I get to do it myself. It makes me quite emotional, to be honest. He then gets asked, he says, you've played against City, Arsenal, Tottenham, Newcastle for your previous clubs. What's your experience of English football? And he said, the fans cheer throughout the game, the passion, they cheer for every single tackle. I am enthusiastic about that, as that is a big part of my game. So I feel like I will have a good connection with this league. So again, talking about the fans, he's spoken about how excited he is to be at Old Trafford, and, you know, the way that the fans will cheer for every tackle. We've seen that with Lissandro Martinez. He puts in a strong tackle on a player, he's going to get that attention from the crowd, and I think Manuel Ugarte is excited to experience that as well. He also gets asked, you know, you've won 4 trophies in Europe, how hungry are you to win more? So 4 trophies in the clubs he's been at. People say, oh, it's easy to win trophies at PSG because it's a bit of a farmers league. True, but he's still won them trophies, and he's only 23, and he said, being at a club like Manchester United, it comes with a certain responsibility, and that is to win trophies. I'm still young, keen to learn, a huge desire to win. This club is the ideal place for both of them things. He says, but at this club, there is this huge and added responsibility, and you have to take that seriously whilst enjoying it at the same time. So talking about how this club demands trophies, how there's so much responsibility to win trophies, that he hopes to do that. He's hungry to learn and to succeed at Manchester United. Basically, all the answers that you would want to hear, fighting for this club, winning trophies. I mean, he's not going to sit there and say, yeah, you know what, just took the paycheck really, not that bothered. I mean, he's not going to say that, but you can see in the way he plays, the way he fights for everything, the passion behind him, that he actually does mean what he's saying. He then says, the fans can't wait to see him. How excited are you to get started? Of course we can't wait to see him. We have to experience that midfield every week. And that, that Liverpool game, I was thinking during that Liverpool game, by the way, and I know a lot of you guys will be thinking as well, is we cannot have this midfield for the rest of the season. We would be absolutely screwed. If somehow the Ugarte deal would have fallen through, which, some people were questioning on deadline day when it didn't get announced till late doors, thankfully it did, we would have been in trouble. Big trouble. I mean, there's so much anticipation for Manuel Ugarte, and everyone's sort of hoping he's going to be our midfield saviour. Like I said yesterday on the morning show, like I said on the fans forum, as good as Ugarte is and how excited I am for him to come in this team, he's not Harry Potter, like in the words of Ten Hag. He's not, 3 players in one. He doesn't have 8 legs. We need to make sure we have a midfield and a structure around him that enhances his game and doesn't leave him exposed. Because no matter how poor Casemiro is in possession, which he is, and how, immobile he is, because he's not mobile at getting around the pitch, he still gets massively exposed by the system. And like I said, you could put anyone there and they'd massively struggle to keep up with it. So it looks 10 times worse when it's, an ageing player like Casemiro who's coming towards the end of his career on a downwards trajectory. With Ugarte, you will improve it, more simple in possession, better in possession, but also, more mobile, gets around the pitch, great anticipation, ball winner. But at the same time, he's not 5 players in one, he's not 2 players in one. He can't be left on a 4 versus 2 situation. You're always going to have you're not going to have the upper hand in that situation. So as much as we're excited for Ugarte coming in, and he will improve our midfield, there's no doubt about that, we also have to hope that Ten Hag changes his tactics and finds a solution for this structure that is completely exposing our midfield week in and week out. But to get on to what he said about how excited he is to start and how excited he is to see the fans, he said, I'm very excited to start. I've never seen anything like it before. These United fans, and since the news, they've been sending me messages. It even made the news in Uruguay. The fans are so excited, and I'm so excited to be here. Saying he's never seen anything like Manchester United fans. Tell you a secret, Manuel, it's because we are... Manuel Ugarte, it's because we are absolutely desperate for you. We can't lie. But no, the fans are super excited, and that's the way Manchester United fans are. And I've said this before about Manchester United fans, and you guys will get it as well. If you give everything for this badge, and you respect the club, you give everything on the pitch, and you fight for us, you will get nothing but love off the fans. The fans will put you on such a high pedestal, and you will be massively loved. Even when you go through bad spells of form, even if you don't perform, of course fans will criticise, but if you give everything for this club, you will be loved. It's when you don't do that, fans will get really frustrated, because we know how important it is to give everything. We know what an honour it is to put on that shirt, and we just want the players to understand that. So I think Manuel Ugarte will quickly become a fan favourite if he embodies what I think he's going to embody, and he brings what I think he's going to bring, which is obviously a lot of passion, a lot of desire, and a lot of fight. He lastly says the die-hard United fans deserve the club to be winning trophies, and that is what I hope to achieve. That is what we hope to achieve, speaking as a team there. So that is the Manuel Ugarte interview. I mean, there's lots to digest. Basically saying, how much of an honour it is and how much he wants to fight for the club, and we've spoken about that. So what do you think about it? How do you expect him to fit into this Manchester United midfield? I mean, the one thing that I would say is it gives us options. It gives us multiple options. There is a world where you could play Casemiro, Ugarte and Manu to make a more strong, compact midfield if you're against the likes of, a Manchester City, a Liverpool like we were last week, although I still don't think I'd trust Casemiro, in a Manchester United shirt if he had 10 players around him protecting him after what I've seen last weekend. Honestly, I've genuinely seen people come out and say they don't want to see Casemiro play for Manchester United again, like he shouldn't play for the club again. I think that is a bit extreme, but if he does play, he needs to be protected. He needs to be protected, and he shouldn't really be starting many games, let's be honest. He really shouldn't be. He was decent at the start of the season in the Community Shield. Against the Fulham game, he was decent, but that Liverpool game just completely exposed him. He needs protection. If he plays, he needs a system that protects him. Remember what I said, the best managers cover up the players' weaknesses and highlight their strengths. Ten Hag is completely exposing Casemiro's weaknesses as of now, and I'm not completely blaming Ten Hag. The player himself needs to take responsibility for just being constantly sloppy in possession. I mean, it's been a year now, he's been like this. But there is an option there, and I think with Ugarte next to him, it will definitely make him more safe and more secure. It's just, you can't control what he does in possession. Even when he's got time on the ball, he'll just pass it to a Liverpool player or pass it to the opposition player. And it's like, there's nothing you can really do about that. So the majority of people will want him to be out the team, and that would be my preference. I wouldn't start Casemiro, but if there is certain games where we feel like we need to start him and he's, in a better spell of form, we've got a different system, I think Ugarte and Casemiro could play together with Manu just in front of them to make it more compact. You can always play Bruno at false nine. You can play him off the wings. Some people might say, Bruno can get a well-deserved rest, but that is an option that you can play. I think the main midfield, though, that I think everybody wants to see, and this is the midfield that I would play personally, is Manu and Ugarte is a bit of a double pivot. I've said it multiple times before. I really do think they complement each other. If you put it in a database, the best midfielder to complement Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes, it comes out with Manuel Ugarte's last season at Sporting Lisbon. And I think the reason why Ugarte and Kobbie Mainoo complement each other so much, some people might say it lacks a little bit of height. Ugarte's 6 foot, if I'm not wrong, and I think Mainoo said he's 6 foot as well. They just don't look very tall, but they've got a decent bit of height in there. Might lack a little bit, but what you've got with them two players, they both, are strong players. But whereas Mainoo is super technical, good on the ball, Manuel Ugarte is great at covering the ground. That Mainoo is not great at covering huge amounts of space across the pitch, huge amounts of ground. It's just not his game. He does it because he has to. He's being used in basically everything. I feel like he's being run into the ground. But what we need to do is get the best out of what Kobbie Mainoo is his best trait is, which is he's technically unbelievable on the football, in my opinion, for his age and for, the experience he's had so far. He's really good on the football. I like to get him in and around the final third, but also playing out from the back. He's excellent at taking the ball off the back four and distributing it and playing them passes throughout the midfield. Ugarte is excellent at cleaning up that mess, tracking runners, getting across the pitch, having that energy. They're both good at winning the ball back. I mean, I think Kobbie Mainoo's made the most duels for Manchester United so far in the season, and we know Ugarte's going to bring that as well. So they've both got similar traits in certain aspects, but also what Kobbie Mainoo's weakness is, which is, for me, covering that ground and the pace to track runners. Ugarte has that. He has that energy to get around the pitch. He can cover that ground. So they can kind of, cover for each other and get the best out of each other. And what Manuel Ugarte lacks in, Mainoo's got. What Mainoo lacks in, Manuel Ugarte's got. So I think they'd be really good together as that double pivot. And obviously Bruno Fernandes, the only way for me that midfield works again is if Ten Hag drops this persistence of playing Bruno super high up the pitch and basically just leaving this massive gap in the midfield. They will get overrun. They're not wizards, they've not got 8 legs. If you still have Ugarte and Mainoo, but you have Bruno way far ahead of them, teams will expose that space in the midfield. You need to drop Bruno back a little bit, allow him to get on the ball more, allow him to be closer to Mainoo and Ugarte so they can play the ball back to front and move up the pitch together. That's how I think Erik Ten Hag should go about things. And I think what he has to do to stop this exposure of our midfield is, I mean, there's multiple things he needs to do, but I think a main thing he needs to do is drop Bruno into that gap instead of playing him super high up the pitch, because as soon as they play through our press, we're completely exposed, whether that's Casemiro, Ugarte, Manu, whoever you play there, they will suffer from it. So that's something that we need to make sure we do to get the best out of Ugarte and Manu together as well. Make sure you have a little bit of protection in front of them, and through doing that, he does need to drop Bruno back a bit. People say, oh, you know, Bruno is too ill-disciplined, he's in so many different positions. I honestly think that is a coaching thing. As a coach, you should be telling a player where to be, what position to play in. And Bruno is clearly being instructed to be that high up the pitch. I think that's a weakness in our game at the moment, and Erik Ten Hag needs to fix it. We've got some super chats that we'll bring in before we end the show as well. And Enjoy Writing says, Cobby got bullied on Sunday, unfortunately, Beth. I wouldn't say he got bullied, I would say he got exposed. Casemiro with absolutely zero help. Everything was going through Cobby. Like, he'd be in the most awkward position and he'd get it passed to him out from the back, and he'd have to sort of recover, turn and pass it off under immense amounts of pressure. And if people say, you know, he made a mistake for that third goal, he did, the same way Casemiro did for the first two goals. But the difference is Cobby Manu is, you know, he's being everything that positive that Manchester United does has to go through him. I think he's being overused. I think he's being overworked. And anything that, you know, is positive for Manchester United, Manu usually has a hand in it. He's being asked to, you know, create going forward. He's being asked to constantly take the ball off the back four because there's little passes on within the midfield. We struggle to move the ball from back to front, even though we have the back five that Erik Ten Hag now wants. I know they need time to play together, but I think that's because of the structure of how we're set up in possession. You know, there's too much space. And we're playing this deep line with a high press and, you know, a high forward line, and there's too many gaps in the midfield. It's easy for the opposition to cut off them passing lanes. So Manu, for me, yeah, he did get overrun, but he was basically in the midfield on his own. So, you know, what to expect? Then when Collier comes in, and bless the kid, you know, he's coming into such a hard task. You're 2-0 down at home to Liverpool. Casemiro's just been subbed off because he's been so poor in that midfield and eaten alive. You know, Collier as a young kid has to come on and take over from that. And Manu then becomes the senior midfielder because Bruno's basically playing as a striker up with Xerxes. So there was a lot for Manu to do on that Sunday. So I don't really hold too much criticism on Cobby Manu. I feel like he's being overran. Who's to blame? And I'm hoping Ugarte fixes that. Who to blame says, please don't get a long-term injury. Yeah, everyone get your fingers crossed. But I've looked at Ugarte and I don't think... I think his injury record is basically pretty clean. If I've looked at it, I think he's been out through illness, and that's about it. Let me just actually have a look quickly at his injury record. 1 second. His injury history, I'm on Transfer Market. Yeah, so he was out for 11 days in 2021 season with an arm injury, and since then, he was just out 10 days with COVID. So he's basically got no injury record. He was out for 10 days with an arm injury, that is it. So I mean, comes to United and God knows what sort of voodoo will be put over him, but hopefully he will be injury-free like that player that, you know, because we're looking at players that are coming in and hopefully, you know, can be strong enough and to withstand the intensity of the Premier League, the intensity of all these games, and he looks like a strong player that doesn't get injured too often, not injury-prone. So, well, not injury-prone, only been off with COVID and an arm injury for 10 days once, so hopefully that stays at Man United. But also, I don't think Euro had been injured before he came to United, and then suddenly he gets a long-term injury. So fingers crossed, and let's hope that he stays fit. It's crucial for our season that he does stay fit. We've got Ethan Riddle. This isn't a dating show, Ethan. We are talking about Manuel Ugarte's first interview. You know, if you want to ask people if they're single, or if you want to ask, you know, about dates or whatever, you know, this isn't the place to do it. But, you know, thank you for your contribution. And yeah, got all the super chats in so far. Thank you very much for that. Also, where does this put Toby Collier? Obviously came on Sunday. I think Erik Ten Hag would have been very, very reluctant to use him. I think it shows where Eriksen's at in terms of the pecking order as well, that Toby Collier is clearly ahead of him. But is Collier now ahead of Casemiro? at least with Ugarte coming in, it takes the pressure off Collier to basically have to become a first teamer this season and be consistently used. Because if we hadn't managed to sign Ugarte, I would be sat here right now saying Erik Ten Hag has a task where he basically has to use a midfield of Collier, Manu and Bruno for the rest of the season because Casemiro just isn't up to it. So at least this takes the pressure of Collier, you know, playing a lot more than what Ten Hag probably would have anticipated this season. I think Collier, we should ease him in through the Carabao Cup game that's coming up, you know, the Europa League games we've got. I think he will become a first team player this season. I think he will definitely get minutes. I won't be surprised if he gets some starts as well because Ugarte will have to be rotated. He can't play every game. Manu as well, you know, he can't play 90 minutes every single game. So Collier is definitely going to get minutes. But at least now Erik Ten Hag's going to manage them minutes. But Toby Collier was speaking to us at the United Stand on tour too in the summer when he was getting some good game time out on tour on the US tour, and also, you know, seemed to be in the manager's plans. There was a lot of talk that Toby Collier's in Erik Ten Hag's plans to become a first team player this season. And he spoke to us on tour about, you know, the future of the season, how he wants to start for Manchester United and he wants to be part of the first team. He had no plans to go out on loan. He sees his future in the Manchester United first team. Spoken a little bit, you know, about Erik Ten Hag and his management. After his Old Trafford performance at the weekend in the Premier League, make sure you go and check that interview out. It's really insightful. I went and looked back at it this morning and it was really interesting to see, you know, how far he's come and also his ambitions for the season, because we always like to promote youth, and Erik Ten Hag, you know, a lot of people won't be happy with him right now, and I know a lot of people have a lot of criticism of him, but one thing you can't hold against Erik Ten Hag is his ability to bring through players from the youth and have the confidence of them to play in the first team and to have that confidence in them to do a job for Manchester United and to bring them through the first team. I mean, he's done it with Garnacho, he's done it with Manu. Collier should be the next one. The one thing I'll say about Erik Ten Hag, and I know Ahmad wasn't necessarily an academy player, we bought him in, but he's someone I don't know why that Erik Ten Hag just doesn't seem to be 100% sold on. No idea why he got benched at the weekend, and for me, has to play, has to start against Southampton. If he doesn't, I'll be asking so many questions. Came onto the pitch on Sunday and basically showed Ten Hag up to be like, why didn't you start me? Like, he's so good, and the whole fan base see it. So let's hope Erik Ten Hag sort of warms to Ahmad more and more and he gets more game time too. But look, Enjoy Writing says, Casemiro's wants the answer, Beth, no longer. Yeah, for me, it's just it's sad, really. It's sad what's happened with Casemiro, but hopefully Collier will get some time this season. Ugarte hopefully will be our midfield saviour. But for that to happen, I think Erik Ten Hag really needs to look at the structure of his team and the structure of that midfield. Look, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to all your super chats. Please make sure you hit a like on the video if you haven't already. Lovely to see you all. Have a lovely afternoon on this nice little Tuesday. I hope you're getting over the loss at the weekend. You're not too down about it. We've got a nice international break now to tide us over. Hopefully bounce back when we come back against Southampton. Any more breaking news, we will bring it to you. Mark will be back with the 8 PM show later. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I will see you on the next one.